let's start digging into their games. All right, and we're not really going to talk about any of the non-conference games other than week 1. Ooh. All right, so the chicken kind of laid out what they've got, right? And because we are an SEC show, they are not playing an SEC team, but they are playing the reigning national champions, Ohio State, week 1. I mean, I don't know if you can find a bigger game in week 1 than this. I mean, this is a big one that we haven't seen in a long time. Yet last year, Georgia played Clemson week 1. Not even compared to this. This game is going to be incredible. And kind of not knowing what Ohio State has other than, I mean, I know they've got a new quarterback under him,
Julian Sayin.
Yeah, Julian Sayin is a transfer from Alabama. Will Howard is gone. They lost a couple of their receivers, Abuka, but they're returning, I mean, one of the best wide receivers, Jeremiah Smith, in the country. Caleb Downs is still on the team. So they've got weapons, and they're Ohio State. So I guarantee you, and we're not going to, but if we went into the Ohio State's roster, kind of like what the chicken just did with Texas, I think what you're going to find is probably something very similar. They're going to be loaded at every position. So it is going to be a game. But let me ask you this, guys. If Texas loses to Ohio State, this is definitely the biggest game Arch has seen, right? This is going to test Arch. If they lose to Ohio State, how does that set up the rest of the season, or does it just not matter?
I think, first of all, I hate matchups like this in week 1. And here's why. Not that it was equivalent, but if you looked at the Florida State Georgia Tech matchup in Ireland, right? They tried to hype that up. It's in Ireland. What does Florida State have to do with Ireland? Nothing. But if you looked at that, you looked at a Florida State that had just come in off of a wonderful season the year prior. They had DJ Ukulele at quarterback, who was going to be the next best thing coming out of Tallahassee after he had kind of not done all that great anywhere else. But why not? And Florida State was going to be off and running, and Georgia Tech said, nah, hold my calculator and slide rule. I got this. And they dismantled Florida State's season before it got a chance to start. That's why I don't like games like this, because I look at this game between Texas and Ohio State, two teams that you want to be good all year, especially Texas from an SEC standpoint. You want these teams not only in the conversation before kick, but you want these two teams in the conversation at the end of November. And there's just too much opportunity for something squirrely to happen. So that's just my personal opinion. Back it up, Chris. Where does Texas come out in this game? I don't think that Arch Manning has the ability to come into any game unprepared. Look at who his grandfather is, at who his uncles are. He was born to be a professional. And so he's going to take that approach, not only getting ready for this season as QB1, but also in getting ready for week 1 against Ohio State. He's not going to get rattled. He's not going to come out looking like he's unprepared. Or what was it, Zach Wilson with the Jets a few years ago that said he was seeing ghosts out there. That ain't going to happen to Arch. I think that this is probably going to end up being a really good football game that will test the mettle of both of these schools. Your question was, whoever loses this, what does it do to their season? I hope that it's the type of game that win or lose, it neither boosts your, oh, look, they beat Ohio State. Now they're the number 1 running through. Or they lost to Ohio State, call it off, and let's just all get ready for Christmas. I think that this is going to be that type of game. A touchdown, a field goal separates these two teams, and to the victor go the spoils, but certainly not a defeated season to the loser.
What if and I know this is just what ifs, and we're playing with a lot of what ifs. We don't know what's going to happen, of course. Well, actually, you know the future, so you do know the outcome of this game. You just probably not willing to share it just yet. But, and we'll talk about that come the end of August when we talk about this game again when it's going to be played within a few days. So, but my question is, if it's a blowout, if Texas loses by 3 touchdowns, Arch falls apart in this game. How does that set up the season? And you could do that vice versa. I mean, how does a blowout of a team like we just talked about, a Florida State got blown out by Georgia Tech? How does that affect? How do you think that'll affect their season moving forward?
I don't wish this on him. In fact, I sincerely pray for Arch about what I'm getting ready to talk about. In talking about the depth for Texas, in both the last show and in this show, I highlighted something very important to their overall offense, but also very intimately to Arch, and that is the offensive line. 4 out of their 5 starters are gone. We talked about the talent that's going to be stepping up into those roles, and it is certainly there. But you are going to have an offensive line going into a game against Ohio State that does not have the same chemistry that the offensive line of Texas had last year. You're not opening up against San Jose State where, oh my gosh, I missed that block. Remember that one slow guy that got past me? No. If you miss a block against Ohio State, your quarterback is under immediate pressure. Immediate pressure. Now, Arch has the legs, has the cat-like reflexes to kind of get out of some of those jams. He's proven that. He can scramble. Maybe he only picks up 3 yards, but at least he gets out of a bad situation. If that is the tone of the day, of looking at the struggles of a newly formed, talented, but newly formed Texas offensive line, what happens if Arch goes down? I'm not worried about Arch getting rattled, making poor decisions, throwing a lot of picks, and having a bad day. I'm worried about protecting that guy.
Well, I never even think about that, man. With the new offensive line, man. Yes, he's a scrambler, but I'm gonna tell you right now, scrambling quarterbacks, although great, and we've seen some great scrambling quarterbacks over the time, over the days, years. Excuse me. Stetson Bennett was a great scrambling quarterback. That's how he beat people, was his ability to scramble. Johnny Manziel, a scrambling type quarterback, and that's how he beat people. But those guys were smaller stature than an Arch Manning. So can Arch scramble well enough without getting hurt? That is a huge risk on his part. And with that new O-line, my advice to an Arch Manning is don't scramble as much. Don't think that you've got it with your legs. These boys are big. I saw your face when Georgia's defensive guys were chasing you down in the backfield, and you were like, I can't believe I can't outrun this 320-pound guy. So these boys are fast. They're big. They're strong. My advice to you is get rid of the ball quickly. Be a Tom Brady. Sit in the pocket. Look for your throw. If you don't have it, get rid of it. That's how you're going to stay healthy, because an Arch Manning going down could cripple a Texas season. Not on the standpoint because they don't have the talent to back him up, but as a maybe more of a psychological, that's a big word for me, on a standpoint. It could really play with the entire team's psyche if Arch goes down, and it could be down for a while.
If I'm Ohio State going into that game, I'm stacking the box. And I'm going to do that for 2 reasons. Number one, I'm going to have an attitude of, okay, Arch, beat me.
Yeah.
I know you did it against some lesser schools for a few starts last year when Quinn was out. But now you're playing me. Now you're playing the Buckeyes defense. Here's everything we got. We're coming at you as fast as we know how to, as strong as we know how to. Beat me. Right? So I've got that approach. But then the second is, if I'm Texas, I know I got to run the ball. I can't just let Arch be my guy all day long. So if I'm stacking the box as Ohio State, I'm also prepared to stop that run and put it all on Arch Manning's shoulders. Put it all on that offensive line's back to see, can they protect that guy? And that's where that's where this game is. I love a game that lives and dies in the trenches, and I think that's what this game is.
Yeah, and look, we're going to move on to a few more of the other games that especially the conference games, and didn't want to spend too much time on a non-conference game. However, this is a huge game and could be a very defining moment, not only for Texas and that's who we're talking about. So, but also for the Ohio State Buckeyes. I mean, this game is big. This game has consequences. Potentially. I mean, if it's like you said, if it's a 3-point game, either way, how does that affect their season moving forward? It doesn't. If it's a blowout, or God forbid, and we're praying against it, that an Arch or someone goes down, like even a Julian Salient, their quarterback at Ohio State, if their starting quarterback goes down, somebody that's supposed to hold this mantle up, for the team, that could have serious consequences for their season. So it should be fun to watch.